How you doing, Stosh YouTubers? This is Stosh back with another vlog of semi-forbiddenness tonight. Gonna be talking about the philosopher Baudrillard, Jean. I'll leave a spelling of his name in the liner notes. You may better know him as the philosophy guy that the Matrix brothers, the Wachowski brothers, drew from in The Matrix. The desert of the real. What is real, Neo? How do you define real? I think there's definitely a kind of a ongoing theme with a lot of YouTubes and stuff, or conspiracy things, or a new culture of nothing is real. I think it's almost kind of a protection against reality. But this philosopher from France that the Wachowski brothers kind of based a lot of The Matrix on, if you read his stuff like The Consumer Society or Simulation and Simulacrum, which I think is probably his most famous work, you'll find that, I hope you can hear me, because this is going to be great. I'm certainly no philosopher, but I'm enjoying the idea of attempting a vlog on this guy. He talks a lot about there's a culture of ambiance, and I think my favorite quote by him is, and I forget it all the time, but I got it here: illusion is no longer possible because the real is no longer possible. And I'm not meaning this as an escapist thing. I think there's a lot of that, like if you follow David Icke or these guys, there's a lot of we don't real, there's outside the 5 sense reality, and you don't real, I mean, when you have to pay the bills and live your life, or if you smack your head against a wall, it's real. And so it's a little bit avoiding reality, almost talking about that there's no reality. Or if you get some quantum physics stuff and you say we're just vibrations, or atoms are totally empty, or the universe is made up of dark matter, it's still, as Einstein said, it is an illusion, but it is a persistent one. But I think that's too simple to accuse this guy's work of, because he talks about because of mass reproduction of goods and consumerism, hyper-consumerism, low culture, high culture, whatnot. Obviously, decade after decade in the West, it's such a completely, and we all kind of know it. We're all completely consumed by consumerism, no doubt. That is why this guy is one of my favorite philosophers. Now, forgive me if I'm misunderstanding a lot of his stuff, but I think that his ideas are great, and that's the reason why that movie, it wasn't just that it was an attractive person's sci-fi kung fu movie, The Matrix. The message resonated with people because of this guy basically pointing out that it's not just that everything is illusion. We're just so used to unreality and basically cultural destruction via absolute being consumed by products of mass production, mass reproduction. Incredible. So, and he talks about art as being a sign of prestige. Basically, us plebes, we have reproduced massive reproductions of art, and it's, it's kind of gaudy, whereas the super wealthy will have hyper art, so they'll have a solidly real Van Gogh, and it's sort of a sense of a prestige. And then there was the data movement. I don't know if you've seen, you guys may have seen that in one of my YouTubes. I did some data, DA. It's basically really bad art. The irrationality, the merit of that is you can sort of get a chance to understand good art. That's one aspect of it. Everything across the board has become excessive, and this has been a long time. And he points out there's a Freudian kind of economy that's based on libido, and there's a Marxist one that's political economy, and then there's more of the Adam Smith one, who the benevolence. We don't depend on the benevolence of the butcher and the baker. We just depend on the fact that they need to get paid for their work. And that is the incentive. And we know now the cliches, or basically there's a synthetic reality that we're all dealing with that doesn't really challenge the viewers or the consumers too much. Lady Gaga's got the song I'm Popular, There's Too Many People Calling Me on the Telephone. Manageable crises as part of art. And everything is function. There's a pseudo individuality created for all of us. Sort of subordinates the natural world. So I'm kind of talking in circles, but I hope that I'm getting across the main idea of the that we all kind of know we're dominated by consumerism to the point of those are our friends, or even like the video games and speaking or the narcissistic nature of the social media is outdoing the real. Human sexuality is being outdone by the synthetic. And what matters is in the celebrity is the fame. Fame is the ultimate aphrodisiac. Power. That's Kissinger said. Power is the absolute aphrodisiac, but there's a aphrodisiac that has to do with fame. So we have like a fame culture now, of which we gaze upon the celebrity creation, which of course really isn't quite real. Only those people they're able to purchase what he would call the hyper art. The hyper art. Hyper real art. Andy Warhol did those soup cans and reproductions of thousands of them. I think if you look on my thing, I got a video from the MOMA. He would be he's doing kind of a critique on it, in my view. I think he's showing it for its aesthetic value, but it also has a message. He's sort of saying that it's shit. In a weird way, I think. I don't know with Andy Warhol. I think I don't know if he was looking at a message or was just, you know, I think he was sort of criticizing in a backhanded way. But does pop culture represent consumer life or consumer existence? And Baudrillard said that no, because it's being consumed by it. So there's no consolation in that. It's even that there's not, you know. In Simulation and Simulacrum, he mentions interest in the super films. He references Apocalypse Now. This is more interesting now that I'm rolling with. I wish I said this at the beginning of this vlog, but Apocalypse Now was such an experience of a film that it overshadowed the pain of Vietnam in a strange sort of way. In that it was such a spectacle. There were drugs and tremendous scenes of aesthetic violence, in a sense, and I think it overlapped. And I think he mentioned that when he mentioned the China syndrome. Kind of is a prophylactic almost against the fear of a nuclear meltdown. So art, he contends, no longer represents, it simulates. Art's become a kind of revolt against the reality of objects. And it's a breakdown. In a sense, Picasso, in his cubism, demonstrated a destruction of reality. Everything's been, in a sense, used on the population. Psychoanalysis and the most powerful knowledge of that science has been used to break down the consumer. So it's stacked against the workers. In that time, Kobayashi, Alfred says that you know, animals are land or territorial bound, and humans are time bound. So the same is that sense that there's an obligation. Americans' fun is work, and everything sounds like simulated labor. I think he even used the line, "Are you working on your tan? Do you go to the gym to body build? Do you use you have your unemployment benefit?" Illusion is no longer possible because the real is no longer possible. The desert of the real is another phrase that Baudrillard uses. Jean. Since I've been going through notes, I think my vlogs are worse now. I used to just go at it, but so it is definitely a society of ambiance. Which is part of the consumer society. For therapy, you shop till you drop. Black Friday, don't feel good, buy some stuff. I would say some criticisms I have for that are, I suppose that's all we know, and what would people do with that? And I think this is going to be a growing problem. You know, as automation increases, it's not yet clear on how we as a species will deal with the free time. Maybe I heard a thing on the radio about, oh, they will have to go to a shorter work week, or when we have the hologram, which in a sense already we're looking at our phones, celebrating holidays on social media. Literally, there are films you play for a mood. Christmas films, Halloween films, He also represents, I've got a video on the German Bauhaus, which I'll leave that in the liner notes. I just saw that at a museum, and I filmed it. Obviously, I filmed too many museum pieces or whatever, but I like it. But there again, I'm taking a picture of an art piece instead of drinking it in. I'm not even in the moment. So the medium is the message, but it's been helpful to try to learn about it. Anyway, the German Bauhaus, as far back as the 30s, had kitchen equipment and architectural designs that look like the most modern stuff we have now, and it's but it doesn't it looks sort of spacey, but it doesn't really look natural. He also referenced Disney World quite a bit, which was really interesting. What are you going to do after you've won the Super Bowl? I'm going to go to Disney World. And it's the ultimate Disney World, Disneyland, an ultimate American phenomena, which is probably one of the best things. Baseball, apple pie, Chevrolet, and Disneyland. No longer Chevrolet. Coca-Cola still rules the world, but people are kind of getting the message. But there's another product that will already come up. But I think he said, well, it's great to go to Disneyland. I don't know if he was joking, but he was saying it's better than going to Europe, because you can go to Frenchland, whatever, England town, and it's a lot less stress, and you just walk to the next one, and everybody's nice, and cool. They're all in. It's easier said than done. It's synthetic and safe. Guess you don't have to travel as much distance or whatever. Disneyland is more beautiful than the real. I don't think his view was quite like the Neo is really realizing that the human bodies are used to power the machines, but still I can see why those filmmakers use that. The job of the ad companies, remember Bill Hicks did that bit, if you're an ad agent you should kill yourself, is to produce desire, create desire and happiness, make you need things that you don't even want, to make impulsive choices. And actually products sometimes do a little bit of shame and degradation, like it's Mother's Day, it's time. Do you really want to let your family not have tires? Of course, some of it's practical, some of it's just a creation of infinite variety. And there's also the desire that they create the desire of the child within. Madison Avenue where the advertising comes up has been called the Street of Dreams, of which it is. 7th Avenue, I think, is the Boulevard of Broken Dreams, but Madison Ave creates dreams. It's a impulsive drifts. There's a lot of shame and degradation if you don't keep up with the pack sometimes. And there's a lot of, impossible things to back up. This tire is 70% stronger. It's a consumption-centered world. Tradition and any kind of real culture is sucked up, which you might call pseudo-truths, pecuniary pseudo-truths. Drawing now some of my thoughts from a book called Culture Against Man. Culture is against man in that a tremendous amount of energy is put into getting people to consume. Wonder Bread helps build strong bodies in 12 ways. What the hell does that even mean? So, this kind of knowledge that they're using on us, the people, product therapy, socially necessary, effervescence, I think the name is. Product loyalty is so bizarre. I mean, I just, it's amazing how many we see, like, and then on holidays they're like, such and such insurance company is with you and your kids. And now there's like the hipper ones that are supposed to be funnier. But again, The Waste Makers is another book by Vance Packard that is good to check out. So there's an idea that there's it will never end. The impulsive drive will never end. Because then you'll stop buying stuff. Sometimes there was like Adbusters magazine and stuff, and there's sometimes things that come out and people get hip, and I think a lot of younger people are getting interested in or becoming aware of culture, that the culture has become against man. And you may have noticed, and I think that book, Culture Against Man, is a good read. I'll put that in the liner notes. I like one point where the author points out that, he doesn't really say the meaning of Christmas is gone, for instance, but in the consumption-centered world, the build-up, the anticipation, the joy of Christmas, because of the consumerism, is almost turned into a psychosis, or is. And from a young age, we're all trained, children are trained to be insatiable consumers, to insatiable consumption of impulse, choice, and infinite variety. So that's another thing. Variety never ends. So if there's such a thing as ADD, or that's just being lazy or whatever, attention deficit disorder, certainly decade after decade of being trained as consumers could have to be connected to this. Every Christmas we watch planes, trains, and automobiles. The Rand Corporation, the think tank, has been working, and those also, drive the masses into war or whatnot, game theory, the study of people, the Tavistock Institute, Rand Corporation, is able to fire up war. And the advertising people are always able to create desires. They don't challenge you too much, so you get to thinking, of course, but they are creating more desires. And that is the first commandment, and has always been. But it doesn't challenge too much. Obviously, we're passive. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this ramble. I went to my notes too much, but nevertheless, I hope I piqued some interest. I will leave the notes of my favorite books that are referencing this vlog, because perhaps you should notice, as I have. No, it's worth noting, though. It's the simulacrum and simulation, is pretty real. I mean, and some of it's just, I think he was against museums and stuff. That's, or possibly, or he used that as a talk. The mannequins show, like at the Natural History Museum, New York City. We get that impression, so there has to be imitations. This is what a caveman looked like. This is what a tribe in Siberia looked like. The mannequins. The museum look. Or we have nature preserves, and as a simulated forest. There hasn't been for a long time, and continues to be more unreality. What are the consequences? And the new technology, is it increasing that to the point where we're going to lose total grip on natural reality? Alright, this has been the Stash Vlog. I hope I conveyed these concepts correct. If I didn't, I brought up the topic, which is well worth addressing. I'll leave the books that inspired me to do this blog in the liner notes. I hope this was of any use. I've ended this vlog 30 times. Sorry, ASMR value. If you're not asleep by now, redo this vlog. Hit repeat. Hit watch again. Alright, this has been Stash. Good night and good luck. Good night.